The United States court rules against Bahamas Chapter 11 filing.
A suspect found dead in police custody.
A man gunned down outside his home today.
Coming up in the Bahamas tonight, a business partner of the Vasili is telling police in a statement that Philip Vasili, his friend, abused substances like alcohol and cocaine.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
A landmark ruling in the Delaware Bankruptcy Court throws out the Chapter 11 bankruptcy petition by Bahamar. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charisma Robinson.
And I'm Chris Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us. The U.S. courts have sided with the Bahamas Supreme Court regarding the bankruptcy filing by Bahamar. It was the last resort by the company to have its filing upheld. But in his decision, U.S. Judge Kevin Carey decided that the Bahamas should be the jurisdiction that decides what should happen. Clint Watson has been working this story from all angles since the decision was handed down around lunchtime. He's live with us. Clint, what's now the next step for everybody involved?
Well, Chris, Charisma, what this in essence mean is that the Chapter 11 proceedings for Bahamar, except for the one American subsidiary company, North Shore, were dismissed. Now, North Shore operates their call center for Bahamar in the U.S. The judge agreed with Justice Weiner that anyone doing business with Bahamar in the Bahamas would expect that their case, if any, would be heard in the Bahamas. Now, for that reason, he dismissed the ones for the Bahamian company, but any business attached to the American company will be heard in America. Bahamar stated that it is disappointed that the motions by China State Construction and the Export-Import Bank of China to vacate Bahamar's Chapter 11 process have been granted by the U.S. court, with the exception of the Chapter 11 case of North Shore Mainland Services. Accordingly, Bahamar says it will explore its alternatives with respect to the court's decision. Now, Bahamar stated that with respect to the decision, they note that the court affirmed that it was appropriate for Bahamar to file for Chapter 11 in the U.S. court and that the Chapter 11 filings were made in good faith. In its ruling, the court made clear that the Chapter 11 process, with all stakeholders participating under these circumstances, would be an ideal vehicle for the restructuring of this family of related companies, with the ultimate goal of finishing a project set to be 97% complete and, upon its exit from Chapter 11, to be in sound financial footing with appropriate treatment of creditors. The court also made the point that if it were convinced that denying the dismissal motions would have the effect desired by the debtors, bringing CCA, China XM, and the government of the Bahamas back to the bargaining table, it might consider denying the dismissal motions. But the evidence does not reflect this, and the judge was not convinced this will happen in short order. Furthermore, in his decision, Judge Carey of the U.S. court noted it may well be that the North Shore Chapter 11 case could serve as a useful vehicle for the parties as part of an overall resolution of the corporate family's difficulties in concert with the proceedings in the Bahamas. Bahamar emphasized its priority continues to be ensuring Bahamar is in a position to be completed properly and opened successfully as soon as possible. They are continuing to do all realistically they can, including working with the provisional liquidators appointed by the Bahamian Supreme Court to try to resolve the issues that have prevented Bahamar from opening. Well, Prime Minister, the Honorable Perry Christie, says the government welcomes the decision of the Delaware Bankruptcy Court to dismiss the Chapter 11 proceedings against the Bahamar entities.
In so doing, the Bankruptcy Court agreed that the future of the Bahamar Resort should be determined in the proceedings in the Supreme Court of the Bahamas, in which Justice Winder has appointed provisional liquidators. The government's primary objective is and has always been to see the resort completed, opened, and operating as soon as possible. The Delaware Bankruptcy Court's decision advances that objective and recognizes that the interests of the Bahamian Bahamas entities and their creditors will be best served by the Bahamian proceedings and by negotiations. The government therefore invites all parties to join it in cooperating with the provisional liquidators to bring about a prompt resolution of this matter in the interests of the Bahamian people.
Prime Minister Christie there. Well, a short time ago, the Joint Provisional Liquidators also released a statement on the ruling, saying the decision today would not change their role, which is to protect and preserve Bahamar's assets and focus on bringing all parties to the table so the resort can open. Managing Director of Chris Global, Edmund Ramming, said they are focused on their court-appointed obligations rather than on proceedings outside their control. The Joint Provisional Liquidators have called their task of sorting through thousands of pages of documents, contracts, and communications accumulated over the last decade massive, and said the Delaware judge's ruling would not impact their strategy, obligations, or goal as assigned by the Bahamian court. Now, Ramming says they have been well supported in their efforts so far to the cooperation of the parties involved, and they hope it continues as there are still many routes to be explored. Now, Chris and Charisma, what's key is, again, Judge Carey agreed with Justice Winder that the matter should have a negotiated solution rather than litigation. That's something we've been hearing all along in this process. Well, live in the newsroom, I'm Clint Watson.
Oh, thanks so much, Clint. It was a busy scene at the Central Police Station this morning after a man was found dead in his cell. Cleopatra Murphy has those details.
Her Majesty's coroner is now investigating the death of a man who died in police custody after being arrested by officers. Shortly after 10:30 Tuesday morning, the body of the deceased, who ZNS News has learned is former police officer 1196 Fernalsa Moss Jr., was wheeled out of Central Police Station and loaded onto a mortuary services vehicle. Police Press Liaison Officer Assistant Commissioner of Police Stephen Dean gave limited details, stating only that the deceased was discovered in his cell.
Shortly after 8 this morning, suspect who was being lawfully held in custody was discovered dead here at Central Police Station. The matter is under active investigation by Her Majesty's coroner. Her Majesty's coroner has already taken receipt of this matter and is leading this investigation.
While Dean did not state the cause of death, some officers say he committed suicide. Sources tell ZNS News the bus driver was arrested on Monday in connection with the disappearance of a 15-year-old girl who was reported missing and has since been found. Dean did not say how long Moss was dead before he was discovered.
We are in the preliminary stages of our investigations, and like I said, any more details pertaining to what we are giving now will be directed to Her Majesty's coroner.
Moss is the fourth man to die in police custody since 2013. Matthew Jacob Pratt died at the Central Detective Unit, and Aaron Roll died at the Southern Police Station days apart in February 2013. Another man died at the Wolf Road Police Station in September 2014. With regard to these matters, Dean says police are limited on what they can say.
I am not in a position to give any further comments because we are restricted by law. Because once Her Majesty's coroner has taken over the investigations, Her Majesty's coroner is the spokesperson.
The bus Moss drove was parked outside of Central Police Station, and it was believed that the owner was going to remove it. Cleopatra Murphy, ZNS Network News.
The murder count pushed to 107 this morning following the fatal shooting of a man in Nassau Village. As friend Kerry tells us tonight, the incident has both the police and a religious leader calling for an end to the bloodshed.
There were cries of grief and groans of disbelief from relatives and friends as the hearse removed the body of a man shot to death outside an apartment complex on Aaliyah Street between Pinewood Gardens and Nassau Village. The tragic incident unfolded shortly after 8 Tuesday morning, prompting curious bystanders to line the street, watching as police processed the scene, searching for clues to solve this latest homicide.
Now, it's unclear at this time exactly what the motive was for this latest murder. However, police say the victim was leaving the home when the incident happened.
The only information we have thus far that he was just leaving that building when he was approached by two men armed with handguns who shot him to the body. That is the only information that we are working. We are very early in our investigation, and we want to send out an appeal to members of the public who may have seen or heard anything in this area, or whatever information they feel that could assist in bringing some closure to this investigation.
Police confirmed that other people were inside the home when the incident occurred, although they did not release their identities. However, religious leader Carlos Reed revealed that his friend and president of Families of All Murder Victims, FOAM, Candy Gibson, was a close personal friend of the victim. He noted that Gibson was at home at the time and called him moments after the incident happened for support. He appealed to the public to stop the bloodshed.
Too many guns right now. on our street. We have to find ways how we get them off. We got to find ways how we teach our young people conflict resolution and anger management. I believe that we are in a crisis in our country, and we have to act as so. I know that the Ministry of National Security is going to do whatever they can to be able to reverse this stuff, and what we're trying to do is more come from an intervention standpoint.
Now, police stop short of releasing the identity of the victim as the investigation is still ongoing. However, Vice President of FOAM, Tomiko Evans, identified the victim as his childhood friend, Alberto Williams.
To me, the person I knew was a good friend. He was a childhood friend. I knew him a long time. Like we all do, everybody have issues in life. Nobody is perfect. And he was in the process of overcoming his despite the fact that what happened, to me, he was a good person. I don't look at a person's past, I look at their future.
Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
Now, authorities say the impact of social media in the aftermath of crime is a real issue. They say when the truth is revealed in most cases, the damage is already done.
The lady Candy from Murders with Phone, Friends of Murdered, whatever the thing name, she was just killed.
These are the opening words from a pair of audio recordings today that went viral via WhatsApp. It's the latest in a growing trend of bogus, inflammatory, and disturbing messages that often appear in the immediate aftermath of a tragedy.
Them people run that woman through her house, out her car, and they kill her. Just now, 15 minutes ago. Hallelujah.
Police and press reports confirmed that President of FOAM, Candy Gibson, was in fact not injured in the incident that claimed the life of Alberto Williams earlier today. This fact apparently had no bearing on the lady in the recording, who went on to make this claim.
She was killed in the front of her son. They don't even know if her son was hit or whatever. But this person who told me this is her neighbor, a very close friend of mine. Family, we have to pray.
Police officials have issued numerous warnings against this type of posting, citing the recordings as insensitive, irresponsible, and in most cases, erroneous.
Authorities tonight are still trying to find 24-year-old Mark McKenzie of Warwick Terrace. They want to question him in connection with a recent homicide. McKenzie is described as a tall, dark male, slim-built, about 5'3" in height. Anyone knowing McKenzie's whereabouts can call the police at 919.